So let me ask you this in terms of like we talked about the idea of culture going back and feeding on the past, this sort of this nostalgia, this kitsch, if you will, and you observe that the culture in many respects has been in a weird stasis for the past couple of decades. Talk about that, because it does seem, I will say that the thing that has radically changed over the past 20 years, as far as I can tell, is technology and everything that is implied by that. Having a 14-year-old daughter, the interesting thing about this whole COVID thing is that I feel like her whole life has been training to maintain her relationships over Zoom, because that's what she was on some level. She was doing some version of that anyways. But beyond that, there's no outward talk about that sort of outward representation.
Well, that again, as it happens, it was an epiphany that I had around the same time, 6 months later than this, screwed over pilots one. And I was just reading the paper and I saw this picture from 21 years earlier, I think, 1985 or 6, of people, of this group of fashionable young people, waiters, maitre d's, and so forth, who worked at the first cool boutique hotel in Manhattan. And I'm saying, how weird. They all look like people today. Their hair looks like it, their grooming thing, their clothes, the stuff on the street, everything. Like, that's weird, because in any previous time in my lifetime, and then I realized before, 20 years made all the difference in the world, right? Everything in 1970 looked different, sounded, acted radically different than 1950. Same 1980 versus 1960, 1990 versus 1970. And then it stopped. And anyway, I didn't see it as part, I saw this as, at the time, as this entirely other thing. And I spent some time trying to figure that out. How and why that had happened, and in some ways it is an extension of nostalgia. It's like and why I think one reason it happens is because of all the wild technological change, some of it good, a lot of it not so good, all of it discombobulating for a lot of people. There was a certain reassurance that, oh, but look, the way I dress and the way that magazine looks and the way that car looks and all of the rest, nothing's really that different, is it? It's kind of all like it always was. I mean, look at you, Sam. I mean, you could walk down the street in 1990 and nobody would go, wow, look, man from the future.
I'm probably wearing the exact same clothes I wore in 1990.
Exactly. And so I think one of the reasons it happened, as I say, is the same reason the nostalgia mania happened. It's like, it's reassuring. And I don't think anybody made it happen, or any more than anybody made the nostalgia thing happen. But I do think, and this is how I began weaving it together with the economic story, political story I tell, I think it has served to reinforce the idea that big change, radical change, re-engineering the economy, say, is really not possible because everything just stays the same, doesn't it? So I think it has that effect of making it seem impossible to change things, that this is just the way it is, kids. So, and again, I'm not saying that's even conscious on anybody's part, but I think it's this strange thing that happened midway through the takeover by the evil geniuses that serves their interests. Yeah.
How does that fit in? I'm just curious as to like if you have a take on this in terms of generationally, because it seems that, and I am, I guess late Generation X, early Generation X. I'm at the margins of Generation X, and closer to a boomer. And I wonder, when I look at younger people in their 30s and younger, it feels like that there is not the same inhibition of imagination that exists certainly in my generation and amongst the boomer generation. And I wonder if that is, like how much the boomers went to sort of like said, we're going to break off of the shackles of pretense and button up shirt and short hair. And there's nowhere to go after that for them. Right. Yeah. I mean, once every day is casual Friday, you've run out of days.
Yeah.
And on some level, but like the younger people, they don't have that constraint on some level. Where does generation, what's going on here generationally?
Well, and I'm hopeful. I see green shoots of hope of maybe this stasis is not altogether, is gonna sustain itself. But I think, however, the radically new in the ways in which hip hop was radically new in the 70s and 80s, or rock and roll was radically new in the 60s, we still haven't seen that. So whatever, for instance, so whatever the generational difference is, it has yet to, in a cultural way, in a pop cultural way, manifest itself in a spectacular way like those. But I also think that because the younger generation, because anybody under 45 has never lived in anything but, in America, an unfair, unequal, insecure economy. I think, there's more of a sense of, well, what have I got to lose? Right. And in so many good ways, potentially, if the evil geniuses retain control, it could explode and blow the whole thing up, which of course some young people, Sam, want to do. But so I think that's part of it, the difference. But the other thing, I've got kids older than yours, and young people also, some of them anyway, love nothing more than using their Jetsonian technology to like look back at the 70s and the 60s and the 50s and look at videos, and which is not bad in and of itself, but the accessibility of images and sounds of the past does have the effect, I think, of suppressing the rejection of the past that big radical changes of the 60s and of 1848 and everything else before tended to occur. There has to be some kind of rejection of the past. And God knows we have a rejection of the racial past, racial oppression past, and the misogynistic past, and that's going good. But and I think in the last decade with the Bernieites and even Warrenites like me, I think I am hopeful that people are seeing more clearly that this current, the way the system has been re-engineered, well, that it was re-engineered, and that it was re-engineered not to serve most people, and it doesn't have to be this way, so we'll see. But it is, no, I am prodded and educated and re-educated all the time by my daughters. So good luck I hope you are too.
Yeah, I am indeed. And I should say your insistence on using political economy as opposed to just the term economy is one that I think sort of goes to the heart of trying to remind people, like, these are choices. This is not, we're not in an organic situation here. This is not about, this is not gravity or physics. This is simply people making a choice to drop a hammer. That's why it fell to the ground.
Exactly right.